tuning in to Loser Kid Pinball Podcast. We are on episode 146. I am Josh Roop. With me, my co-captain, as always,
Scott Larson.
We got an awesome guest joining us today. Scott, you've had quite the adventure, and there's a new game out. We're focusing specifically on Avatar today. Tell us about, if you're going to buy that magic, where are you going to buy it from, Scott?
No, I'd contact Zach and Nicole Minnie at Flipping Out Pinball. Actually, I know two people personally who have purchased the collector's edition from Flipping Out Pinball. So it's a great place. They have great customer service. So definitely reach out to them and they'll be able to hook you up.
Yep, definitely. Well, our guest kind of came onto the scene crashing in, kind of like blew us away back in May. And then he's just like a part of the clan now. If you haven't checked out his site, his videos are fantastic. He loves Godfather. I mean, it's Vic VP. And I think you are a great example, Vic, of how having virtual pinball can transition you into buying actual pinball. And you just did a video on this. It was like your 1 year owning pinball, which was a fantastic, like 45-ish minute video. If you haven't checked this out, check out Vic. But we want to welcome on Vic VP. How you doing, man?
Thank you, guys. I'm just happy to be here. Thank you guys so much for inviting me on this. And again, I can't thank you guys enough. You guys were one of the two that messaged me after the whole whirlwind and fiasco media stuff. And you guys are very welcoming. And I'm very grateful that you guys shot me an email and calmed my nerves. So thank you for inviting me. And I'm just excited to be here.
Yeah, man, we're excited to have you on. It's awesome. Well, you got to hang out with Scott. And you guys went and did a little field trip like last Thursday, Friday. Where'd you guys go?
We went to Chicago.
We flew into Chicago. So full disclaimer, we did get JJP, Jersey Jack Pinball. They had an event, and they invited media people to come out. They did pay our expenses to come out. So we just want to make sure everybody's aware of that. With the caveat that they had no restrictions on the content that we were going to talk about. They basically said, anything that we talk about is without bias, and it's our impression. So we're very grateful that Jersey Jack was able to do that. And so this is all about Avatar. This episode is. I flew in the night before. We went to Jersey Jack starting about 10 o'clock, and we were there until about 3 o'clock. So we started off, we got a little quick tour of Jersey Jack. They also took us back. They talked about the game, talked a little bit about what was going on, went and took a tour around the factory. We got to see avatars that were on the line. We're able to see the mechs, we're able to see the underplay fields, able to see the cabinets, and then we went and grabbed some lunch and we played Avatar. So, and then after that, we went to Interium. They had a section in Interium that had all of their games. So the ones that they didn't have Pirates, and
They didn't have a WAS.
They didn't have a WAS, yeah. So, but they had all the other games there. So this is actually a pretty monumental release for them. This is their 10th game. And they've really picked it up over the last couple of years, where it used to be that they were taking years between games. So they were taking years to get another game out. They seem to have accelerated that. A few years ago, we heard Jack talk about wanting to release things more on an accelerated basis. He talked. It seemed like teasing out about every 9 months or so, and they seem to have been following that for the last couple of releases. So that's actually been really good for them. So this is their 10th game. It's a new designer. So, Josh, why don't you give us the rundown on who was involved in this?
For sure. So, you gotta understand. I was a little jealous because I start getting these notes. I'm at work, and also my phone just starts boop, boop. And I'm like, "What is going on?" And Scott's taking notes, and because we obviously podcast together, he doesn't want me to lose these notes, so he's texting them over to me, and I'm like, what in the earth? Okay.
Yeah. They were quick little like, hey, this is what's going on. So it was a stream of consciousness. Yes.
So I'm assuming this is who worked on the game or all involved. So Mark Seiden is the newest designer to JJP. This is his first release. If you haven't checked out Metroid, I'm assuming they're going to have it at Expo. Don't quote me on that, but it's a fantastic game. I was excited to see what he came out with JJP, just because I'm a huge Metroid fan, and he did a great job with
So
that.
Metroid was a homebrew, for those who didn't know. This was his
Correct.
own game that he just made himself.
Then you've got on here Ken Cromwell, which is head of marketing, right? Is that his official title? Sorry, Ken, if I got that wrong. Eric Meniere, which got a new title. So he's just been a designer for a while, but now his new title is like the head of operations, isn't it, or something like that? He's like the
Yeah,
George Gomez now of JJP.
he's basically like the chief. I didn't get his official title, but he is basically the chief engineer.
Gotcha. Tom Capera, who left Stern, is now the head over manufacturing, and Tom was over not manufacturing. He was machining at Stern. He was one of the head guys. He also helped with Cactus Canyon, and actually, I think was the designer for Cactus Canyon as well. Back in the '90s at Bally Williams, and you've got Brett Abess. And
Okay,
that's the
Brett.
only person on here I
Okay,
don't know.
yeah, Brett Abus. He is actually so they are the part owners of the company.
Oh, okay.
So when
So
they came in, okay, and
okay,
so I talked to Brett a little bit. He super nice, super excited about being involved in pinball, wanting to bring it to the fans, try to make the best product. And he comes from a background where his dad has a lot of money, and so he's used to being in like a big business situation. And so
yeah,
he comes from that. He is over Jersey Jack. They are fans. They are personally fans. And so that's how they got involved. There were a couple that I didn't get on that list just because I didn't know at the time. And let's see if I can find those. Okay. So there were also a couple other new ones. Leah Foskey, she did the art, and she comes from it was the video game background, right, Vic? So
Yeah, it was
she
Hearthstone, I believe it was.
yeah, so she
yeah.
came from the video game background. In it,
Mobile gaming too. I don't know if
right,
she's done actual like console game, but it was yeah.
sure. So definitely the video game. It was interesting because when she wasn't there, but when we talked about getting the asset integration and being able to do the art package, they said it was interesting because she actually had more freedom doing this than she typically does doing the video games. And
Hmm.
that did stand out to me because usually it's the other way around.
Yeah.
Usually when the artist is like, I have all these constraints to work with. So that was something that really stood out.
Especially
Okay.
with the Disney license. That's interesting. You've
Yeah.
also on here is Keith Johnson. You know Keith Johnson.
Yep. Keith Johnson.
You love his code from Lord of the Rings and
Okay, but
Simpsons
even
Pinball
back in the
Party.
day, yeah, Simpsons, but yeah, Lord of the
Yeah,
Rings,
like
but he's been doing the main code design architecture for all the Jersey Jack games.
yes. And then you've got on animation the legendary John Paul DeWin.
Yep.
And he's been there at JGP for a while working on their animations.
And there is okay, I'm trying not to get this wrong. It was Rachel Foskey. Am I saying that correctly? She's the head mechanical engineer.
Oh yes. I
Yeah.
remember them announcing her. Yes.
Yeah, and so it was really nice to see that this game is bringing a lot of new and young blood into the pinball sphere.
Yes.
And they really come from Rachel is a she's a mechanical engineer. She's certainly young, and this is great because we are getting new people into pinball and casting the net wider.
Yes.
It's nice just because a lot of for a long time pinball tends to be a little bit of a self-perpetuating machine,
Yeah.
and you get a lot of people who have been involved in pinball remaking and being re-involved in pinball. So being able to bring in more talent certainly broadens the exposure and broadens the demographic that is involved in pinball, which is only a good thing.
Yeah. I agree. So what was your guys' first impressions walking into the factory? Why don't you tell me about that, Vic?
I went to Ken and I was like, how do you get work done? I was like, how do you get work done in this amazing facility? It was the whole like it's like a very well built machine. And when Eric was giving us the tour, you could tell he's like passionate and he knew like where everything was. It was just a fine-tuned machine. It was just from the beginning to the end and how organized and everything was. I was like mind blown by the whole thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It is. I would say that if you're looking at different factories, Stern has an enormous factory. Okay.
Yes.
So this is a smaller level, but it's still a big factory. Okay.
Yep.
And so you could tell that they were able to do a lot of stuff there. It is interesting because I did get this little tidbit that I was we were trying to tease out. Okay, so how many games do they make? You know, of course, they don't release the figures anymore. They
No.
used to release all these things, but I did get. Let's see, if they are running at full capacity, they could make 80 games a day.
Nice.
Okay. And I did specifically ask, how many man hours does it take to get from start to finish? 18 to 22.
Okay.
So roughly 3 to 4 days to get something from start to finish.
That's if they don't drop the playfield and scatter the bolts everywhere.
Okay. Well, that was a different tour. Okay. However, ironically, okay, Vic, do you remember this? They do a playfield drop test.
Yes, apparently 4 feet off the floor.
4 feet.
What?
They
suspend playfield? Like, wait, what?
Yeah, they suspend a playfield 4 feet off the ground,
fully populated. Yeah. We're talking a full. Everything's on it. All the mechs.
Okay. And so I don't know if they just release the power or they cut the cord or whatever, but it's a full drop from 4 feet onto a cement ground. And he said it's loud.
Yeah, Brett said that.
Yeah.
And what's the reasoning behind this playfield drop?
Okay, so this is the challenge because shipping, we all know crazy things happen when you're shipping.
Yes.
And shipping companies do not use kid gloves.
No, they do not.
So this is their way of trying to ensure that when it's put in a box and it ships out to a customer, that they have done as much as reasonably possible to ensure that things aren't going to be broken or moving around or loose.
Gotcha.
So I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah, they even mentioned that they have a room with the flippers are just going for like days. And Eric's like, it's just a loud room and it's very hot in that room. So they're doing their testing, and that was interesting to hear.
So they must have moved that because when Scott and I went on the tour back in 2021, they had this like cage inside the like manufacturing area, and it was going, whatever they were testing was going off the whole time. And we're like, what's back there? And they're like, you can't see that. We're like, but what is it? And we're like, it's our next game. We're testing a mech. And it's like, so what would happen? Because it's just us and Ken. Like, what are you gonna do to stop us, Ken?
Obviously, we didn't peek behind the curtain. But they do have ways, just like any manufacturing company is going to have ways of continually testing machines. And so they have balls that are rolling around playfields, flippers activating, and just making sure that you're going to get hours and hours and hours of wear on the playfield from extensive testing to make sure that it's going to last the life of the game.
Yeah. I want to point one thing out. So you brought up the new artist, Leah Fowski. Is that what you said her name was? I like this because I feel like it differentiates in two different ways. So they brought on a new artist, and that really differentiates JJP because we're not pulling from the same pool of artists that have already been in pinball, right? And I get there's some that come and go, but for the most part, I think the second way it differentiates is this isn't like your stereotypical pinball art. She's definitely taken it. It's cool because it's pinball art, but it's in a new direction, in my opinion. She did a fantastic job. Like, I want to applaud her and applaud JJP for taking a risk and not just doing the same old, right? So
yeah, it was a beautiful. I mean, it's kind of crazy because you hear about artwork and people want specific things. Like, I like it. Like, I'm a big fan of The Godfather. Godfather has that almost same style. Yeah. It's like a hand drawn. I don't want to say the word cartoony. People are saying Avatar is like comic book stylish. I don't know, but I love that approach. I think it looks better versus doing like actual like movie footage. The
Yeah,
only thing I could compare that to is like a Sopranos, where like you have a picture of like Tony Soprano, like a
yeah.
real. I don't know. You know,
Mhm.
I love the art on it. It looked amazing.
Yeah,
No.
it definitely okay. So let's get into that. There's other things that I'm going to talk that we want to talk about, but I want to get into okay. So Avatar. Let now, if you listened to us last time, we just had like a 10-second trailer to look at, and we did talk about this. So let's talk about everybody Avatar as a theme. Okay, and I did go out and say that this was what I would probably consider a B level theme in that it's very recognizable. Everybody knows Avatar. Everybody has seen it, has some sort of exposure to it. They're going to recognize it when they come into an arcade. However, it's not, I would say, Freckes. I'm sorry. I just barely, I was making sure I got her so I could, so the mechanical engineers, I didn't say it correctly. Is it Freckes? I'm sorry, Rachel, if I'm saying it wrong. Um, but it's it it is a theme that if you look at oh sorry, Frericks. That's Rachel Frericks. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I want to make sure that I was saying everybody's
It's
name
that
correctly.
monkey
So
on your back. I get you.
I
I
did.
get you.
So I actually went back and I was pulling up in the background. I was watching the Avatar video that had everybody's name in it. Okay. A-list titles. Okay, what's an A-list title? Star Wars.
Yeah, Star
Star
Wars.
Wars is an A-list title.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter is an A-list title. There's
Pokemon.
Pokemon is not an A-list title.
Dude, it's the
But
highest grossing franchise of all time. How is it not?
yeah, well, okay. Do you want a Gone with Wind pinball machine? Um,
That's not even near the top 25 franchises.
Actually, when you adjust for inflation, it actually is.
Okay,
Um,
made movies, but not franchises. They
okay,
have
all
no.
right, fine. Okay, so yeah, this is a solid theme that is quite recognizable, and so
Yes.
in some ways, though, I think this is good because people aren't fully immersed in the lore of this. They understand it, okay? And there are super fans out there who are totally into it, but it doesn't have the handcuffs, I would say, that a Star Wars game would have and that like a Harry Potter game would have. Okay. Now I'm gonna throw it to Vic and ask your thoughts, and I'm gonna throw it over to Josh.
I mean, again, if we're talking about Avatar, I'm not in it.
Okay.
I don't like it. It's not for me. When it was in the movie theaters and people were talking about it, I'm personally not into that like sci-fi. I just it's not for me. So when
Okay,
I
but
heard that they were
you at
doing
least
it,
recognize it. You knew
oh
what it
yeah, no,
was.
no,
Yeah,
I you see blue and the ears, and I knew who and what it
sure.
is. But as
Yeah.
far as me being a fan of the theme, I'm not a fan of the movie. So
Okay. Okay, Josh.
It does not do anything for me. I'm not a
Okay.
huge Avatar fan. I know
Okay,
people
which is
ranted and
fine.
raved. Yeah, it just
Yeah.
isn't. Here's the problem with me. I felt like I don't like to go to movies to have a political message, and I feel like every time you watch an Avatar movie, there's some kind of underlying political message that they're trying to push. I'm like, it's just not.
Mhm.
It's not for me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
but
Okay,
yes,
wait.
we all know what Avatar is. We know
Right.
Yes.
once you see the blue guy, it's like, all right, Avatar, not
Okay,
Smurf,
Avatar.
Avatar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, now have either of you guys been able to go down to Walt Disney World and see the world of Pandora down there?
No.
Okay. It's really cool in that you're going through and you're walking through like an avatar for the Pandora forest, and it's really pretty. A lot of bioluminescent stuff. And when you're riding on, I don't know if you're riding on the Banshee because the Banshee's the big one, right? The big bird. And
Yeah.
what's the small other one that
The
you?
whale.
Yeah. Well, no, not the whale.
The
And like the other
whale.
thing, the other smaller bird. There's like the one that you connect your braid to and meld somehow with.
Dude, I've watched this movie once, and
Okay,
I
all
haven't
right.
seen the sequel. I haven't.
Okay,
You're speaking
s-
French to me.
okay. So the ride though is you're riding one of these creatures and you're flying around, and so
Okay.
it is a really cool ride down in Disney World. So my point is that it's still a super popular ride.
Okay.
because the visuals of it, especially at a theme park environment, are very immersive.
Gotcha.
Okay, and so that's really what I was getting at with that. Okay, so now we're talking about the theme. Okay, let's talk about the art. Vic, you said it feels a little bit more like a comic booky art.
Yeah, I get
Okay.
I don't like to use the word cartoony because people could
Okay.
take that differently, but I would say
Right.
comic book style.
Yeah.
What passes off for cartoon artwork nowadays too is kind of, it's like, yeah, I get you there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I mean,
Okay.
I'm a '90s kid, so if I say the word cartoony, I automatically think like Looney Tunes, and I think of like Hey Arnold and Rugrats.
Yeah.
You know,
See,
like old school scratch style kind of stuff like that.
If
Whereas
someone
this is
says
not it.
cartoon, I immediately default to like the El Cheapo Disney straight to video cartoons. Because I when someone says cartoon, I don't think, oh, this is like a high level release, like Aladdin,
yeah,
Beauty and the Beast, all that kind of stuff. I don't think Frozen. What I think is like cheap. That's really so. I
like the Little
appreciate that.
Mermaid 2, where she gets a daughter kind of thing. Like, which,
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
okay,
And like all those garbage ones that I never saw. So I appreciate that not using the cartoon. I am a huge, at least I growing up, I was a huge comic book fan. So saying comic book is an artistic style in itself, which
yeah.
is really big. So I don't know, Josh, what are your thoughts on the art?
On the art, I think they did. I did think it was great. I feel like I like the unique direction they've went with it.
Mhm.
I think it. Dennis Creasel says this all the time on EGPs and Pinball Show. Like, we've just gotten so used to like amping up the saturation to 10. And granted, like, you kind of are
Okay.
with this, but
Okay,
it's
this
more
game is
like,
not 10. This is like 15. Like
exactly. But
this is Spinal Tap. This one goes to 11. Yeah.
well, you got saturation, then you've got like UV lighting in 3 different
Yes.
ways, and like,
Yeah.
but the thing is I feel like the artwork is something you would see more like with what pinball's been lately. It doesn't feel like pinball artwork, but it does. Does that make sense? Like, we're not
Okay.
doing this like old stereotypical stuff, but we're going in a new direction. I think they've done a great job with it. So,
Okay. I there are two things that I will point out in the art, and I'll see if you guys agree with me on this. There are some themes where the the oversaturation, like you are being bombarded with a light show, you're being bombarded with colors, flights, flashing, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it feels like it's off in
yeah.
that it doesn't feel thematically consistent.
Okay.
And even though Godfather is a great presentation, okay? Vic, you have it behind you. Like it's there, right? It's a great presentation. The light show for Godfather, it's a little distracting to me because it's not what you would expect in a Godfather universe.
Yes,
And
I hear you.
the Godfather universe, it's in like it's a story going from like the 1930s through the 1970s, right? And so that type of stuff was not present. Now, I understand why you do it. By the way, I understand why Eric chose when we did Godfather to bring the pinball element, because if you did something with muted tones and brown colors, it's not going to bring people in.
Yeah, it's not
So
approachable. Yeah.
it's not approachable. It's not going to work for a pinball theme. So you have to pinball it up a little bit. With Avatar, you are. I mean, this is like a Skittles induced seizure. Like you are
Yeah.
being bombarded with colors, lights, sound, art, but it seems consistent with what Avatar is.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask that. I was like, because you said that you went into the world of Avatar at Disney,
Right.
and I would assume like color,
Yes.
and I feel like you get the color on that.
Hmm. And like bioluminescence is, or whatever the glow in the dark stuff. That is a huge deal with Avatar, with the world of Pandora, with that kind of stuff, and you see it a lot on here.
So the one thing I want to point out about the art, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing this from you, Scott,
Go ahead.
but my understanding is at the thing, I know that they said it in the video and whatnot, but also while you guys were there, they
Hmm.
really stressed how much the Navi use their left arm. Like that's
Right. The lore of it, right? Yeah,
the lore
and
of it, right?
we had some discussions behind the scenes on this
And
about
oh yeah, go
yeah.
ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
S
You can tell exactly what my question was to you when we were talking about the art.
So Scott has a picture of the side art of one of the Navis shooting a bow and arrow. I can't remember her name, but she's shooting it with her right hand.
It's like
Yes.
Neftiri or yeah,
Yeah.
Neytiri.
If you go on
Yeah, see,
Pinside,
yeah,
you can
okay, look,
actually see it on Pinside.
it's that thing right behind you, Vic. Yeah, so
The
look.
winner.
So Neytiri, she is shooting with her. So I don't know if that was reversed for some reason, but
Yeah, like they
okay,
should have been on the opposite side of the cabinet or something. Like
yeah.
it's kind
Oh,
So
of
so
it's mirrored. Yeah.
okay, I don't know. And again, if you're really gonna nitpick on something, that's a small thing. The only
yeah,
reason why I brought it up to Josh was because they made a big deal about being like immersive in the lore.
yeah.
Like
Well, they
at the
make
very end, the match screen doesn't have numbers because Navi don't have numbers. So you have like the dandelion seeds that go and like settle on you, and they don't have like metal and they don't have straight edges, and so even the inserts are creatively painted so it doesn't emphasize that. Okay, that's a
well, but
very
even
small
like it
thing.
but like
That's
even the
it.
development video, it's 18 minutes long, and there's a
Yeah.
good little chunk dedicated to them about the specific mode where you're
The
playing it only with your
left-handed
left
mode, yeah.
hand, but
Uh-huh.
because you get like 5 times the points or something like that. But as soon
Right.
as you use the right flipper,
Yep.
you're out of that
Goes down.
mode.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's when you
So
said that, I was like, that seems like a small oversight. Like, and I get it. Like, we're nitpicking here. Like, we've w-
absolutely. Yeah.
d- like, yeah, it's not a
It
deal breaker.
okay,
It's like,
it's a
it's a,
poster. It's a poster, okay? So
exactly.
and it could be that it just got reversed because they were like, "Oh, it looks better this way."
Yeah. Which, like I said, it's really not a big deal.
Yeah.
If you're out there and you're like, well, I'm not buying this game now because she's shooting
Yeah.
with her right hand, maybe you need to reconsider your life options of like, if that's really what you're like nitpicking about, like, maybe it's time. Like, time to calm
Okay,
down a little bit.
one thing I will say, and this okay, this seems to me, um, maybe this is a style vibe that I get from different, themes, though, okay?
Yeah.
If you're going to do Avatar, there seems to be some sort of intensity in the facial expressions that you would expect, okay?
Okay.
So if you look at like them shooting or in a battle scene or something like that, and there are times where they have a very aggressive hunter-like focus in their
Yeah.
face.
Yeah.
The one challenge that happens with a lot of art that they sell for these different things is sometimes that emotion seems muted. And if I look at the art picture, and again, this is nitpicking, but you know what? We have an hour to talk about Avatar, so I'm going to. Um, that I
You're
would,
welcome,
I
JJP.
yeah. Hey, you're getting our full constant. Okay, we paid attention. We paid attention.
Scott
I
took pages and
Yeah,
pages of
I did.
notes.
I did. We
Trust me.
I would have liked to have a little more of an intense action poster. And again, this
Yeah.
is probably way overthinking a poster. But it seems, it's like when you see a shirt that has that has something that's like, oh, this is it's a family photo of the Avatar, okay?
Okay.
And they're serenely trying to shoot an arrow. That's different than, hey, I'm going into battle and I'm trying to shoot something with that arrow.
Yeah.
Okay, enough about that. Now, that is totally a personal preference and a personal just evaluation. That being said, it is a great visual art presentation of things.
Yes. Okay.
Uh,
So I feel like we've talked about art for like a while
we
now.
have. Okay.
I
And
just want to ask Scott one question.
go for it,
Okay.
man. It's all you.
Only because you mentioned before how you were deep into comic.
Yeah.
Are you? Would you be upset at me because I said it was comic book style?
No, I would not, because I think I also have a different interpretation of comic book style. Um, and there's another release we are going to talk about later.
Yeah.
Stern has their comic book release, which is very comic booky too. This feels a little different. This feels like comic book style, but also more of an art project. So I would not take any offense to say it's comic book style, because there is a certain style that is associated with comic books.
Yeah, I like the way you said it. Yeah.
And I've got one more thing too. So
Okay.
the thing I like about it is the when you have a mobile art or mobile game artist, sometimes they overdo the artwork to make up for like the gameplay or like
Right.
stuff like that. And so I feel like you're treading a really fine line because you don't want it to come off of like Shadow Legends or whatever that game is, or you know what I'm saying. I
Okay,
felt like they did a
I have a
really
better one. I have a better
okay.
one.
Okay, go for it.
The art for Atari Centipede is amazing.
Yes.
Okay, the game not so much, but the art is amazing. Like, and that's how all 70s games were. Like, the art was really cool because the game visual representation was not that cool.
Yeah, I agree. All right.
Yeah.
So next, okay, when I first saw this, when I
Okay.
saw the spec sheet before they even released Avatar, and it said had 6 flippers, 4 like 2 under play fields, there's like an upper play field.
Mhm.
Did I say 6 flippers?
You
I
did
didn't say
say
Yes.
that. Okay. I mean, it has a lot of stuff, right? And like the first thing that came to my mind was Haunted House. And I was like, ooh, like Haunted House, like it's a fun game, but
No, it's
like
not.
it's one of I
No, it's
enjoy.
not.
I enjoy. It's one of those ones.
No,
Okay. Anyhow,
no.
it is
It's a
fun.
terrible game.
No, it's not Bugs Bunny Bash, but
Okay, it's not Bugs Bunny bad, but it's
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 not
not the
bad.
same.
But it's one of those things like you thought you could, but you never stopped to think should you? You
Should.
know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Yeah,
it's the Jeff Goldblum Jurassic Park line,
yeah.
right?
And so like when I started hearing this, I was like, oh crap! Like JJP's
Mhm.
throwing like as much as they can into the game
Yeah,
to make up whether they feel like the price gap, whatever it may be. And
right.
I was like, how's this going to turn out? And then when it came out and I saw it, I was like, this is pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
You guys played hands on. How did it play with all this stuff in it?
Okay, I'll let Vic go first. Go ahead.
So it's always crazy when you walk up first to a game because me personally, I'm just trying to keep the ball alive. You're looking at everything, you're looking at like all the amazingness, you're looking at the wireforms and all that. But I was very happy that we were able to at least play it for like a good 2 hours.
Mhm.
It played great, but if you asked me like what was I doing, I was just trying to keep the ball alive the whole time. So, and also trying to hit a couple of the unique shots. It was pretty cool. You hit a couple of shots and then the ball would just randomly pop out like on the right orbit. It it had its moments, but again, it's like, I walked up to it and I was like, and I see how like Scott walked up to it. I saw like Kale walked up to it, and you guys are like studying the machine, and
Mhm.
I'm not even at that level yet. I'm like, I'm just trying to keep the ball alive. And then I was mainly trying to get into the whole crab suit battle, if I'm going to be
Okay.
honest, because I wanted to
Yeah.
see that on the playfield. But it was enjoyable. I had a good time with it. Did I understand the game in 2 hours? No,
Did,
but I had
did you
fun.
did you hear my game update? It scared me.
I have just to give you guys a heads up because Godfather, after 2 hours of like a track mode, the guns go off. So
Oh, there you
warning
go.
on that.
That'd be awesome.
I think that's the first time I've heard the duck fart from the updates. So okay, actually, I'm gonna put a pin in exactly what you said, and I'm gonna come around to it at the end. Okay, Vic. Okay. Um. Okay. Going up to it. So 6 flippers. Now it didn't feel like you were adding flippers just to add flippers.
Okay.
Okay. Which is nice. If you look at Josh, do you want me to just kind of go a little bit around the playfield a little bit? And
Just, if you want.
okay, so there are areas of the playfield, but it doesn't feel like it's chopped up into hey it like linear. Like it's a sharp demarcation between the upper right and the upper left and the lower right and the middle right and the middle left.
Yeah.
It felt like everything organically flew together or flowed together.
Okay.
The There are some challenging shots, and I'm looking mainly at the left upper side. There is a ramp that you can hit with all 3 flippers, and I don't think you can hit it with the 4th one, the right upper one.
Okay.
If I'm gonna nitpick, I would argue it's a wide standard ramp whereas a similar concept was done by Elwin in Avengers: Infinity Quest, and it's a little bit more of a shaped ramp. And so if you're hitting it from the right flipper, it has a little bit more of an trajectory that guides it up, and so it seemed like a slightly smoother shot. I am not going to begrudge Mark on that because Keith has done, so many games that he's used to doing that trajectory.
Yeah.
But it is a fun game. The flow of it is a lot of fun. The shots I felt were makeable. Now, I did say Joel did mention, he's like, Scott, there was one shot that I don't think that you did hit. And I was not aware that I didn't hit that shot. And it's because you are a little overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff going on. And so I need to dial in about if their shots are super hard, super easy. But I felt that you could at least keep the game going, right, Vic?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
even a professional average player, which I am, I could still keep things going. Oh, by the way, the best burn I got over the weekend is I was playing a game with Ron. I was playing Ron from Slam Tilt,
Until yeah.
and I was playing Elton John, and I was really flipping, just bad, poorly. And he turned to me and he said, "Oh, that's right, Josh is the player in your group." And I was like,
Thanks,
"Ow,
Ron.
that's accurate and hurts at the same time." But it was really funny because he was trying to give me like all the rules, and I'm like, Ron, I've never played. It was dialed in. I was like, I've never really played this game, so I'm overwhelmed. But
Now, Scott, do you know what shot you couldn't hit? Like, what?
I believe he was saying it was in the left upper area.
On Avatar?
Yeah, this is on Avatar.
Okay. We were just talking about dialed in there for a second. Okay.
Yeah, no, it was on Avatar. So I'm looking at it and I'm trying to zoom in. It
So
was
it's like the jungle area, right? Well, so
it's
each spot's kind of, so the playfield's divided into 5 different areas
yeah.
of the world. So the upper left, I want to say I see a lot of trees. But
It's not like where the ball locks. Are you talking
No.
about that?
So there's like a vertical VUC, and there's like a wire form that connects to another wire form.
yeah,
And so maybe it was the ramp on the left. I don't know. I can't remember exactly which one because I thought I had actually hit all of them. But either way, I thought that it was fine. It was fun. There wasn't a shot that I felt that I was completely getting blocked from. So it could have been that I wasn't actively trying to shoot that shot.
Now, again, depending on how your play style is, I would consider myself average, beginner average.
Sure.
I did notice, and again, I was watching all of you guys play. Me personally, I had like a 25-minute game,
Mhm.
and I was mind blown by having that long of a game. And I'm like, does Jersey Jack have these set up like in a way to have the game go longer? Like, what did you think, Scott? Were you playing longer than you normally played?
For a first time game, maybe. And they could have had him set up a little bit more of I don't want to say easier, but more accessible, just because they were trying to get us to experience the game flow.
Yeah.
So getting into it now, we did talk about they have 2 lower playfields in this, which I think is the first time 2 lower playfields have been done.
I think so as well.
This was nice though because they were okay. There are going to be some people that criticize the first playfield
The pop
because the
bumper
first
where
playfield you pop down and the pop bumper goes off. However, I did notice sometimes the pop bumper wasn't actively activating.
Yeah.
And so I didn't know, was I supposed to be doing the pop bumper or so I think that's probably more of an early code thing that they're going to fix.
Probably just adjust the switch on the pop bumper so when it hits
Either that or
Yeah.
legit, it could just be an early code because there was a little
Yeah.
bit of a delay. You change the targets that the pop bumper is trying to hit with the flippers.
Okay.
And then it drops down and activates the second lower playfield, which is it's the mini playfield with the 2 flippers.
The crab suit
And
playfield.
that's the crab suit that you're fighting.
So wait, you're
Okay.
telling me there's 2 playfields down the crab suit?
Yeah.
No.
No. There's
Okay.
a playfield above it that is
Yeah, the pop
just like
bumper one. Yeah,
the pop bumper one, and then you go down to the mech suit one, the crab suit,
gotcha.
You have to
Okay,
hit enough targets to get to
to
crab suit.
activate it. Yeah. And the
gotcha.
crab suit one, it is a 3/4 ball. So people wondering about the mini playfields. So my experience before was like Shrek, where it has like a half-inch ball, and
Yeah.
it felt kind of unfulfilling just because you're flipping this ball and it's flying around. Uh, the nice thing about this that made it interesting is the lower playfield is rotated maybe about 20 degrees or so.
Okay,
And so you're not shooting straight up and down. So it doesn't just feel like it feels challenging, but not too challenging.
gotcha.
So you're still supposed to hit first off, you're supposed to hit the targets, it's like
Yeah,
3 to
there's
5,
three
like
targets.
yeah,
Yeah.
3 targets that are aligned. Yeah, and then the second time you go down there, it's harder because you have to hit the orbits, but it was fun. It didn't feel like I was a lot of lower play fields, you get there and you're just like, "Okay, just get this over with so I can get back up." I didn't
Yeah,
feel
so
that.
luckily it's like a timed mode for crab suit.
Mhm.
You're only in there for like the first time for like I think it's like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like, am I just gonna be here all day? But then your
Mhm.
flippers kind of just die if you run out of time.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, and also speaking of flipping out pinball, if you go to their Facebook, Zach did actually take a picture in his
It's true, he
hand,
did.
the
Mhm.
6 balls and then the little one that goes in this playfield. It's actually not too much smaller. I kinda had to be
It's
like,
well, so the standard balls are 1-inch balls.
okay.
So it's a
The
3/4 inch, so it's just slightly smaller.
so it and but it felt natural too, right? Like, it
Yeah.
didn't feel like you were like that Stewie pinball, you feel like you're slapping a BB around, like, it's
Yeah.
not
Do
yeah,
you know what? It kind of felt um, I think it felt the environment better because it was like forced perspective. It almost felt
okay.
like the lower play field was farther away.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I think either they mentioned it or it's in the trailer where they said like that bowl is smaller on purpose to give you that visual look
Yeah.
of it being like underwater.
It
Oh,
also allows them to do more with the play field because if it's a standard size ball, there are smaller things that you can do with the flippers.
gotcha.
Like you would have to have something a lot bigger, such as like the lower playfield in ACDC, which isn't really that fun. It's
Yeah,
cool looking, but it's not that fun.
yeah,
Now in ACDC, I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like that's you're constantly in there
yeah,
until like you drain.
Yeah,
Now,
it's
real quick, because Scott mentioned about the pop bumper, you're right. Like sometimes the ball would just sit, and I felt like the pop bumper was cool because you should. I took the aspect of you should kind of
mhm,
nudge, but now that I think of it, maybe they should probably incorporate like the left flipper would actually activate the pop, and then your
yeah,
right would change
yeah,
the
maybe.
target. When you
Uh,
first get in there, you don't realize that you have control of the target
mhm.
because I was trying to listen
Well,
to the
it
call
does
outs,
say
and it's
that.
like
Now, in fairness, it does say that on the
it does say
LCD.
like change the targets, like
Change
change
the
the
target with
targets.
the flippers. So that would not be a long-term confusion. That's like the first time you go down there, like, what am I doing? Uh, Considering that the first time you played, so there were 4 games down there. The first time you played on the third one over, and I played on the second one over. And so if the ball both sat down there for a while, that tells me it's a code issue. Because if it were a switch issue, then only one of us would have experienced that.
so gameplay was pretty fun, it sounds like. Did any of it feel unnatural? Because like, there's some games you play and you're just
Mhm.
like, things aren't feeling like they're in the right spot. Did this all feel like it flowed well and the shots were makeable and whatnot?
I I feel that this is, and it could be that the flippers are much better on this machine because when I played the first time I played Elton John was this weekend too, where
Okay.
the flippers felt snappy. They felt what I'm used to
With a
on a
stern.
standard
Yep.
Stern, really, or a Williams, right? So I have a lot of the CGC remakes. The flippers have a very crisp feel, and Elton John felt that way. Actually, Elton John almost felt like the flippers were a little juiced, which they could have been. I was playing it at Interium. Here, the flippers felt really snappy, which feels like an upgrade from what like Guns N' Roses feels. A little lag on the flippers.
Yeah.
In my playing experience, Wizard of Oz is the same way. They don't have that really crisp flip, but this felt very similar to that. So with that, this felt like the most standard release that would be consistent with other high-end manufacturers, and I liked the layout. I thought it was a lot of fun. The shots were approachable, the shots were reachable, and it felt like the flippers were doing what I wanted them to do.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Vic?
Again, for me, for Godfather was the first time I ever experienced a JJP. So from my understanding and research, I believe Godfather is like when the new flippers came out for JJP. They felt great. I don't really want to compare it to Godfather. I feel like it was much, I would say the word snappier. I don't want to copy you, but it felt good.
That's the way it felt. It's like the flippers did what I expect them to do on other manufacturers.
Right. Now, the one mech I was concerned about, because it's kind of like in Godfather, but the droid slingshot.
Okay.
Sometimes you hit the far left ramp that will set you up on that top left flipper.
Okay.
If you don't hit it, it kind of travels down along the slingshot.
Yeah.
And visually, I was like, oh man, this looks like a straight down the middle. But it actually wouldn't do that. I was actually surprised.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But the slingshot off the droid mech was very cool. I was really trying to focus on the shrimp. I was trying to see like how that was. The dive ramp was pretty cool, and I'm a fan of the call out. Like when the girl said like dive, I was like, oh, I gotta go and dive. Like I gotta go. Like the one shot that I feel was difficult for me personally was the eclipse shot. That right.
Okay.
I don't know why that right ramp. It was just it was a challenge.
And it's a jump ramp that goes into a spinner, right?
Yeah. However, well, okay. It is.
Well, I'm gonna cut you off, Scott, real quick. So it's actually funny when we were looking at the actual mech in hand on the factory.
Yeah.
In the pictures and in the trailer video, that spinner, it looks like it's such a far shot.
Yeah.
And it looks like it travels, but it's actually pretty close to the end of the ramp.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, it's a ramp to a spinner, and then it brings it down to the right orbit.
The challenge with the eclipse shot, and so there is a mode that is pretty fun. It's the eclipse mode where you start you start the eclipse, and it's a really cool effect because the playfield kind of dims and starts going from the right side to the left side, and you are building and building this jackpot. And then the eclipse shot is you have built. So there was one time where I got like $130 million in that mode. Okay. Or not dollars, but points.
No currency in Avatar.
I got 130 million points. And if I had hit the eclipse shot, I would have got double all of that. And there is, it's a pressure shot. You feel like, so it's hitting a shot under pressure. That certainly was hard. I don't know if that played into it, but that definitely, that was hard to hit at the right moment. But we'll get into the lights, but that is well, actually, let's just get into it now. That was a really cool effect as it was going across, because you had like the really bright lights, and then when the eclipse came, it really fit the mood.
Yeah, I loved it. And when we were talking to like the whole team and all that, you don't really notice it off the bat on the first game, but as like the eclipse is leaving, the left side of the playfield is starting to like lighten up.
Yeah,
it's like I don't think you could get it good on a camera, but in person, it was like mind blowing.
Okay, that's actually one of the problems with this game is trying to find a good way of capturing it on camera so you can see how it plays.
You're telling me Rocky Mountain Pinball Show didn't do a great job this weekend?
No, they didn't. It was and that's the problem, right? When you get these games in the wild, it's hard to capture how they feel in person. And okay, we have seen this before. We have seen this before when people talk about the art of games. And we saw it with John Wick. We saw all this kind of stuff, and people are like, it looks really good in person, like the foil and the art show and everything like that. But it's hard to capture that in a stream as a feature. But it
Yeah.
really is an impressive, immersive element is getting the lights and really they did show some, a prototype. They haven't finalized the playfield for the collector's edition that's going to have the
Yeah.
3D, but go and look at their video because their video shows examples of the bioluminescent printing, and it looks really cool in person.
Yeah, they had like the 2 flashlights going on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
S
And now
so,
at
quick
Interium,
question, I mean,
you could
you bring that up, but,
see
like
some, but yeah.
yeah, so you've got 3 different UV inks in this, like,
The
is
red looked
can you
really
really
cool.
I'm
The
like, can
red
you really
looked really
tell?
cool.
Like
Yes.
Yeah, he did it on the side art blade with the flame. It was insane. I was like, whoa! Like when you think red UV, that was red.
It looked like a cut LCD like trail that was
okay.
illuminated from underneath. That's what it looked like.
Kinda like Tron, like the bike trails off of Tron kinda thing?
Okay, even just think of like a you know what? Like a lightsaber, like a
Okay.
thin wiggly lightsaber. And it was really glowing impressively.
Yeah. The one thing because we're talking about the lighting on it, the UV on this was amazing. The only thing I can compare to UV is Stranger Things.
Yeah.
And I only played that on location, and I don't
Yeah.
know exactly how Stranger Things is set up. But when Stranger Things goes into UV, it blinds me. Like I can't see anything. But the
Okay.
UV on this, they did it very clean because JJP is good with that. With their like spotlights that they have,
Yeah.
you don't like it's not blind you, it doesn't hurt your eyes. And when you see the flippers like glowing, it was mind blowing.
It was cool, and it did visually. Then this was a happy accident. The flippers looked like they changed colors when they did and they that wasn't even intentional. They turned it on like, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen, but it looks really cool.
I mean, we meant to do that.
Well, they were upfront that it was like a happy accident, but yeah. I was just mentioning also the under play fields, they are well illuminated. So a lot of under play fields, it's hard to see anything that's going on in there, but they have so much illumination on the lower play fields, so you could see so well underneath that I was impressed by that. Maybe I'm the only one, but it was like it would look really cool.
No, I like the health bar on the crab suit. It just visually gave you that look of like, wow, you're deep underwater, and it would just glow. My only gripe with the crab suit model is that it has like the 2 eyes. It looks like Cars, like a Cars character. I don't know what that's supposed to be. That's my
Like
only issue.
on top of the crab suit, right?
Maybe that's what the Avatar crab suit looks like, though. Have you looked
Yeah,
at
because
that?
someone pointed this out too. They sent us a picture like, why is this like weird smiley face on top of the crab suit?
I gotta look at it. I seen it. I'm like, it looks like I looked at it as like, because I have a 3-year-old daughter. I look at it as like the Cars, like
Yeah.
Disney
Okay.
Cars with the eyes.
Yep.
That's like the only thing I just visually would see that. But the lighting on it, and what I really liked was JJP did a good job that when you are in that bottom play field, the lighting on the table, it doesn't turn off, but at least it's like, like, hey, your eyes have to go to the lower playfield now.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see. I did take some pictures of that crab suit, so let me see if I can get some good.
Okay, while you're looking that up, the only other couple of questions I have. So, custom speech by Stephen Lang. He's Colonel Quaritch, something like that.
Okay.
The mech suit that Stabby stabs on the playfield. He's in that in the movie. So, how was the call outs? Like, obviously, you guys kind of alluded to like the dive earlier, but like overall, how is the sound in the call outs? Is it immersive? Like, how is it?
Okay, I don't really see the smiley face on the crab guy. Like it looks standard.
Like, I just see 2 eyes, white eyes, and then 2 dots as for the eyeballs, like the irises. But yes, as far as the call outs, I never seen Avatar, so take that. I don't think there was enough of the gentleman that you said.
Okay.
I don't think there was enough of them.
And this is
They
early code, so there
This
might be
is
more
really
coming.
early, yeah.
Sure.
Now, they did say they got quotes from the movie,
Okay.
from all the characters they wanted. They didn't list them all off, but they said from all they wanted, okay? So, those will be incorporated. This isn't and that was one big drawback with Pirates of the Caribbean, right? Is that, oh, you get a lot of sea scenes
Mhm.
that
Y
don't
Yeah, you
have
get their pictures, and that's about
likenesses.
it.
Yeah, yeah. And so, so they had that, and there were like 400 custom lines of call out. Um, they also were able to get, so they had 100% access. So this is all of the assets. So I guess let's transition to assets. They had 100% access to all CGI stuff, which a lot of stuff was CGI. Like, so they do have tons of stuff, and the LCD screen is well incorporated in this game. Like, it
Nice.
is probably it's the best part of the if you wanna be thematically immersed in this, the LCD screen is the JJP does it the best, 100%.
I thought you were going to say that to date, I think it's the best. I
Uh-huh.
think it's just like everything that's
It
on that screen, the way they have it all laid out. I think
Yeah.
it's the best they've ever done.
It's the best of JJP so far, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the movie clip integration, this has always been the challenge, right? How do you incorporate movie assets in with when you're not taking away from the gameplay? And I'm looking at you, Munsters, when Grandpa walks over to the book and flips, and you're just dying the fifth time it's happened. It's just so
Yeah.
painful. Um, but no, this is great because it just feels like it naturally just flows, and the stuff up there gives everybody who's watching you something to see.
Yeah, it was visually, it was amazing. I was also trying to see like if there's much repetition videos, like
Mhm.
inside modes, like on Godfather, there's like you get like 2 or 3 scenes.
Right.
Not much repetition videos. I mean, you get your standard ball lock, ball
Mhm.
lock one animations, but again, the LCD, my biggest, I love the UI.
Yeah.
That like
Yeah.
I honestly think that if the UI didn't look the way it did, I think it would have done damage to the game. But the
Mhm.
UI is just it's beautiful. It's like a
Yeah.
chef kiss on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, they've done 10 games now. How do you feel about Avatar, and where does it land in their 10 games? Is it towards the top? Is it more the middle, or is it the bottom?
Vic, you own. So I have Wizard of Oz, which is the earliest JJP. That's actually the only one that I have right now. So, but you have at least two, and you played the other ones too. So, what is your thought?
It's like I want to say it's like yeah, it's the best thing. It's just for me, it's the theme. It's not a theme for me. As
Okay.
far as comparing it to other games, though, I would rate it. You don't want to say the word it's number one, but I would probably say like I'm trying to keep everything in mind though, like animations, call outs, the gameplay, and all
Okay.
that. I think it's top, dude. I would rate it as like a 1 to 2.
Okay. It it's number one. I'll tell you why. People got pushback. People pushed back. Other content creators that I was talking to pushed back, and they're like, "What? No, have you played Elton John?" I'm like, "Yeah, I have played Elton John, and I owned Elton John when it was called Spider Man." Um, because
I owned
like
it when it was Star Trek. Yeah,
when it
I
was
get
Star
your
Trek.
point
Okay,
there. Yeah.
and by the way, that's Elton John is a fun game. Okay, I know you have Elton John too. Elton John felt like a blinged up version of an older game. That's what it
Yeah.
felt like. It's still really cool, really pretty. It is very Steve Ritchie, but it also just felt like it was nothing new that I saw with Elton John. Okay, it felt like a hey, this is a bigger budget version of what he has done before. Okay. It's not saying it's bad. It's just saying I have already seen it. So
Okay.
this is recency bias. Like I owned a similar game.
And Led Zeppelin too, you own that as well.
I still own it. Uh, and if you look at Dialed In, okay, Dialed In is definitely a Pat Lawler theme.
Yeah,
Okay, it is a Pat Lawler game. It feels like a newer version of a '90s game. It feels like, the stuff he did in the '90s. Still good, but a Jersey Jack style on an older, a Jersey Jack presentation on an older style game. Okay. And you could even argue the same. So Toy Story, there's a lot of Pat Lawler in Toy Story, and Toy Story felt like a like Woody's shootout at Paradise Pier in
yeah,
Disneyland. It felt like it's in the world of Disney and it's in the world of Toy Story, but it still just felt like, hey, you're playing a game that's in the world of Toy Story.
yeah,
It's fine. But I played Toy Story, and I played Elton John, and I thought, you know what? And I played Dialed In. I got more time on it, and I felt like these are games that I have felt like I have played before. They're still good, but I felt like I've played them before.
yeah,
Avatar was the first JJP where I felt it brought something new. It brought a fresh approach. It brought thematic immersion that didn't feel like a cereal box or a Walmart or a lunchbox, which I kind of felt Toy Story felt like that.
yeah,
Um, and Elton John, again, I love the theme. I love the music. The layout is something that I'm quite used to. I knew where all the shots were. That so and considering this has the best flippers, it has the best theme immersion, it has the best light show by far. And by the way, we're an hour into this, and we haven't even talked about the topper on the CE.
oh yeah, we
Oh
haven't.
yeah.
Okay, and that shows you just how much is in this game. So that's why I rate this as number one. I'm still gonna come back to what you said before because in my closing arguments, we're going to talk about who this game is for. Okay. So that's why I rank this as their best game so far. And I even told them that. I told Ken this. I told Brett this. I was like, this is your most complete game that you have done to date. And
Yeah,
okay, you could argue that Guns N' Roses would fit into that category. And I totally agree. Immersion, light show, music, what brings Guns N' Roses down for me is the flippers just don't feel um, flippy enough. They don't feel snappy, and
gotcha.
I think that's just an evolution on JJP, which is why the new version of the flippers are exactly what I expect across different genres of game. I don't have to feel like, oh, these are JJP flippers.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna give my perspective. I did not play the game,
Okay.
but I have played every other JJP game except for Godfather. Is actually
Okay.
the only game I have never played by JJP.
Okay.
Um, I'm gonna I'm not running out to tell you to buy this game. Like, you still should play it. You should still form an opinion for yourself. But I want to lean towards what Vic and Scott are saying. I think this is at their top end, and the reason I'm saying that is I feel like we're going into a new direction. Like, when I think of JJP, they've turned the page a couple times, right? Like, the
Hmm.
first page was obviously Wizard of Oz and Hobbit, and those were like Wizard of Oz is good and Hobbit was decent. And then it was like they brought in Pat Lawler, and it brought something in with Dialed In that was different. And now that I play it after all these other games have come out, it's still a good game, but it definitely felt lacking a little bit.
Hmm.
Because I say that because then Pirates came out, and Eric kind of blew us all away. There was so much innovation in Pirates, and I
Hmm.
still love the little rocking, pirate playfield.
Hmm.
And people love it too. Obviously, it's because there was not enough made. There's you can go with all your theories, and obviously, Pirates is still like the highest, uh, the one you're going to pay the most money for. Like, I just looked for one like $19,000, and it's the
Hmm.
only one on
Oh, it's
Pinside.
come down. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it is what it is. But then we get into like Willy Wonka, and that was kind of underwhelming for me. And the gameplay's all right, but it's just there. And Guns N' Roses is a really great experience, but it just there's something missing there for me. Like, it's really like, I enjoy the gameplay, and maybe it's the code. I can't just pinpoint it, but I love the immersion. I love the way that they did Guns N' Roses.
Hmm.
But the interesting part to me too is I don't know if it's because Guns N' Roses is one of their best-selling games of all time
It,
or what
it
it
is
is.
their best selling.
It
It's
is,
their
yes.
best selling.
Jack did confirm that on our last show, or the last time we interviewed him. Um, Guns N' Roses is the cheapest game you can buy right now on the used market.
Okay, that's a
Eh,
volume thing, though. I mean,
it's
that
gotta
that
be
is
a volume
supply and
thing.
demand. They have the most supply of those games. Yeah.
So, like, 5,500 is what you can buy a Guns N' Roses SE right now on Pinside.
Okay,
O
which is interesting because SE is like the super limited version.
Yeah.
Like Jack did tell us that they stopped making them because they basically weren't selling much of them because people
Yeah.
didn't want them. But yeah,
But then, like, with Toy Story, it felt like we took a step back, right? Like, we got all this
we
immersion
did.
and everything from Guns N' Roses, and Toy
Yeah,
Story 4 just I played it, and it's an enjoyable game. The
right,
problem is and this is what I've always said for at least since Guns N' Roses, the problem is people aren't seeing the value for what you get in the
right.
game, and Toy Story was definitely that stumbling block, right?
It
And then that
also
was kinda
had
like
the price jump too. It
yes.
had the price jump.
And that was Pat Lawler's kinda like swan song, and it just eh, whatever it was, it is what it is, right? And then Godfather came out, and it was really cool because it was like you could see they were trying to go a new direction, but when Elton John came out, like, I get what you're saying, Scott, like, it's we've seen this just it's a diff how did Robert Downey Jr. put it? It's the same dancer, but different leggings, right?
Hmm.
That's the way he described, comic book movies coming out. But the thing with Elton John was is there was something different about it, and I think maybe it's the light show, maybe it's the kind of the interaction with the mechs.
Hmm.
It felt like they were going more. And Avatar, it feels like it's a definite jump from what they've done in the past to to close that gap between people saying, "Okay, is what's in the game worth the value for what they're asking?"
Right.
And I feel like they're really closing that gap of we're trying to innovate in new areas
Hmm.
to say, "Hey guys, like we're still how did Jack put it? The Corvette or the
The Ferrari.
Lamborghini, the
The
Ferrari
Ferrari.
pinball. We're
Yeah.
still the Ferrari pinball." And they are doing stuff stylistically that's different that does make it look a lot better.
Hmm.
This Avatar to me, from the outside looking in, this is the first time I'm like, yes, this is a game that I say, like, you're still getting the most bang for your buck, essentially. The funny part
Hmm.
about Elton John, though, too, is as I was looking it up, Elton John is their second highest like value. It's still retaining value. I had someone message me today and like, I've been
Hmm.
kind of waiting for Elton John because I want the game, but I want to pay the price.
Hmm.
And they're not going down in price.
Right.
So that tells me one of two things. They've hit a stride of like they're outputting the right amount of games versus what the demand is, right? Like Guns N' Roses shows that like if you have way too many games out in the wild, obviously it's going to bring that value down because then everyone can buy one. But I think they're on the right trajectory here. I think they're finally getting their footing. I don't know if it's that transition from where Toy Story was, but overall, whatever you're doing, JJP, this makes me intrigued just going forward. If Harry Potter really is one of the licenses you guys hold, I can't wait to see how you do that because let's be honest, I just went through all the lists of JJP. There's no one complaint I could give you is there's no mech that I feel like has not reinvented pinball, but it's not unique, right? Like I look at other manufacturers and I feel
Hmm.
like I'm just gonna point out the Sentinel head. Like the Sentinel head, it's a new take on an old thing, right? But it feels fresh.
Hmm.
Whereas like when I look at Avatar, I don't see a mech that stands out to me. You've got a lot of toys. You've got
Okay.
the robot with the stabbity stab. You've got the crab suit multi-ball with the grumpy smiley face.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't see an interactive toy. And honestly, looking back across all JJP stuff since Pirates, I don't feel like
Hmm.
there is a mech that interacts with the ball that is unique and different than I can find from any other manufacturer. So that's my thoughts on
Yeah.
Avatar. And so, yes, it's top towards the top of the list. I would put Avatar up there with, granted, I haven't played this yet, but like Elton John's definitely on top of my list. It's a great game.
Hmm.
Guns N' Roses is still a great game. Pirates is still a great game. I think this contends and is up there with them.
Hmm.
Dialed in. I guess I'm biased. I enjoy Hobbit. I know it doesn't shoot the best, but there's an immersion there
The
that I feel like
immersion's
they
great.
kind of lost. They kind of lost going forward a little bit, and then
Hmm.
they gained it back. So Anyhow, I've talked long enough for a man that has not played Avatar to rate it as high as I have. So, yep.
I've always said Guns N' Roses is the most immersive experience in pinball. Okay. Probably
Okay.
still is. Probably still is. But when you have to have everything come together to bring it to the next level. So you're talking theme immersion is one thing. You're talking playfield layout another. You're talking about snappy flippers. That's another. So
Yeah.
all of these things have been focused on at some point in all the previous 9 games. This one feels like, when you're generating a character in a game, right? This one feels like they're all another duck just quacked. They all kind of leveled up to a point where I don't see any obvious deficiencies.
Yeah.
So that's why this is the best version of what Jersey Jack is putting out. Okay.
Yeah.
I totally understand what you're coming from with the mech. And there are some people who that is a huge deal for them. Having like the mech that interacts with the ball or chucks it, this is the catapult going into Jackie or stuff like that.
Frankenstein grabbing the ball and throwing it
Right.
at you.
Yeah, yeah. Or the Jurassic Park head thing that, the dinosaur that eats the ball.
Yeah.
So there are some people who that's a huge deal for. I didn't notice that being missing in this game. So
Okay.
if that's your thing, then that is a line on your ranking list that you could argue is not as high as other ones.
Yeah.
But if I look at my complete package, what I'm really interested in, I didn't care. I didn't care that it wasn't there. So that's why I would argue this is still the best complete package of the other ones. I would be interested to see what other games would be like with the snappy flippers. I'd love to
Yeah.
see what Guns N' Roses is like with the snappier flippers because I think
Yeah.
I would have a lot more fun with it
Yeah.
if that were the case. Maybe Wizard of Oz too. So I don't even know. Maybe I could reach out and say, is there a way of upgrading the old games to the new flippers? Because that would
That'd be
really change
nice.
the experience.
Yeah.
I might be wrong on this, but I think they have a board, and apparently it's like a capacitor kit.
Yeah.
You got to
Okay.
change the caps. I
Okay.
might be wrong. I don't know.
I'm actually going to reach out. I'm going to reach out and just ask because that is something I would be interested in for previous games because that's always been how I've felt with the previous Jersey Jack games is the flippers have always felt inferior and
Yeah.
so having the really snappy crisp flippers really does bring me more into into the Jersey Jack. Um, I Okay. This is the first game where I've actually reached out and looked at availability and cost
Nice.
in Jersey Jack in a long time.
Yeah. That's impressive, actually.
Yeah, and now this is a theme that my kids would go up and say, "Dad, I want to play that." So
Yeah.
I know that my curated arcade is very specific to a family. And that's where Guns N' Roses is absolutely beautiful game, and I do enjoy the immersion, but I have young kids. It's not going into my home arcade.
You don't
Um,
want to see skeletons doing it on
yeah,
your back
okay.
your
Again,
screen while you're
there's a family mode, but there are
I
other
know.
things that would
Yeah.
fit that thing. And I would argue
Yeah.
the same thing with like Godfather. It didn't
Yeah.
fit the theme of my family arcade. Um, yeah, Toy Story did feel like there was something lacking in it. And so that's why I didn't pursue that one. But this is the first one where I'm like, yeah, maybe I would. And Elton John is actually a pretty close. I still think it's fun. I would still buy it, but this is something that offers something different.
Yeah.
Now, remind me though, Scott, are you a fan of Avatar?
Okay. Avatar it's fine. It's one of those themes that I thought was enjoyable. I agree that the movies have a little bit of like typical Hollywood themes that
Yeah.
that feel kind of tired. I felt like the first one was definitely a commentary on like the Iraq War, which that wasn't a big leap. to see that.
Yeah.
And on the second one, it felt like Star Trek 4 and Titanic had a baby and they were trying to save a whale.
Okay.
But okay, if you're old enough, then you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And if not, go and watch Star Trek 4 and you're like, Scott's right. Yeah.
You're like, Scott's
And
I
so
knew it.
yeah, it is pretty, and it's pretty, it's fun, and I would argue that, yeah, it's not my top 5 themes, but it's something that is a solid B theme that my kids would be really interested in, and this is where I want well, okay, well, we'll transition into this, but I do wanna get and talk to, the topper, but let's talk about who is this game for? Like,
Okay.
who would buy Avatar? Because we've had a lot of great games coming out in the last couple of years. And so what is going to purchase or move the purchase price for this game? Who's going to buy it? And why would you buy it?
Honestly, I've talked to many people lately that has been very much like, we're not buying into JJP because of the price jump. Like,
Right.
it is what it is, you know?
Mhm.
Um, they just don't wanna pay into that. And so,
Like for a
speaking
home
of that,
collection or for a
yeah, for a
routing
home
or okay.
home collection,
Okay.
this is the first time I've heard from collectors that are stingy with their money
Yeah.
that they've considered buying a new JJP new in box because they felt like
This
this is
time.
what they've been asking
This time. Yeah.
from JJP. Yeah,
Yeah.
this time. I think if you keep up this energy and
Mhm.
this uniqueness, I say going forward, it's not going to be hard to get people on the boat. I do wonder because they do limit their, there's a limited edition and there's a CE,
Mhm.
and with Avatar, there's a total of 6,000 games. Um, it makes you wonder. Let's say they do bring out Harry Potter, and it's just absolutely wild, right? Like it
Mhm.
hits every expectation. Do they bump that number? Like,
They
do you
they they have to. For Harry Potter, they'd have to. It's an A-list
like
title.
6,000 units?
I I
It's an instant evergreen title. Like
you could
it just,
you
yeah.
could do 10,000, you could do 15,000
Yeah.
units on that.
Yeah. Okay, tell me about
The
this topper though. Tell me,
Okay,
I want to hear about you keep teasing this topper. I want to hear about the
okay.
topper.
Okay, so think of, the Mandalorian topper, but
Okay.
way better, okay? So if you look at it, the topper uses a very similar technology. It uses the
Okay.
Pepper's Ghost effect that reflects up, and it's full body. It's the entire width of the back box.
Okay.
It's quite tall too, and so it's visually impressive. You can see this all over. Now, this is where I would argue you probably want to consider getting the collector's edition because the topper comes with the collector's edition.
Yeah.
And when you're looking at a comparable topper in a Mandalorian topper that's $2,000, and I would argue this is easily 1.5 to 2 times as cool as the Mandalorian topper. So
Yeah.
that's where I would say, you know what? You're kind of looking at, and okay, you have to look at comparable markets, right? So a Stern limited edition is in the 13.5 range, right?
Yeah.
And if you buy a topper for that with like the fancy things like the shooter rod and all that kind of stuff, you're looking at 15. You
Yeah.
really are. You're looking pretty close to that. Okay. And so would I rather have a Stern LE with all of the stuff, or would I rather have an Avatar Collector's Edition with all the stuff? And I
Yeah.
would argue I'd rather have an Avatar Collector's Edition with all the stuff if you're going to be buying that because the
Yeah.
topper is worth it. This could be one of those situations. It's not quite as deal breaker as like the Cactus Canyon, like with and without the topper. I think you can still buy the standard one and have a great time with it. If you are like, no, I really want the cool topper, it's worth it in today's topper market to consider spending the extra $3,000 and getting the topper. This is definitely a game that a family would get into.
Yeah.
Now, this is where you have to look at what is the market for. So, is this game going to be a tournament type game? And this is where you'll always get the people who are really into pinball. They're always going to talk about that, right? Is that okay? So who's going to do it? Like high end players? I don't know if high end players will really get into this layout. Just because
Yeah.
competition players are also looking for a very specific thing. They're looking for a layout that has some risk reward, some high skill areas, some easier areas, but like that one shot that is super hard to get that only they can get. Or they're looking for like a rule set that's very tournament friendly. Okay. Jersey Jack's never done that.
Yeah.
And so, in fairness, I don't know of any like top 100 players who are thinking, you know what, I really want to compete on an Elton John
Yeah.
because that doesn't seem to be their target audience, which I don't think it has to be. That this is a game that would really target. Hey, I have a home arcade and I want people to come down, and I would guarantee Waz does this. When people come down, they look over and they see Waz. And how old is Waz? Waz is over
Uh,
10 years old,
yeah, it's
and it
11 years old, yeah.
still looks like a new release. People go over and they play Waz, and I guarantee if you had this downstairs with all of the other things, it is immediately number one eye candy. I want to go over and play that.
Yeah.
I gotta agree with you on that. I have to. Because we were talking about who's this aimed for. I every time I think JJP, I gotta say to me it's for the home arcade.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yep.
Out for me out here in New York, we don't have many arcades. We have Jack Bar. They have like an Elton John. I haven't been there yet. But there's not many arcades here. Number one,
And they
then
have
number
Sunshine too. They have Sunshine.
yeah, we do have Sunshine too. We have a guy in Long Island. There's just not many arcades. Number one, and then number two, there's not many JJP machines on location.
Right.
And every time I look at my machines, it's like to me, I'm like that was meant for a home use.
Yeah.
That's just and in that realm though of being home use, it comes the price tag. That's where people might be upset about the pricing with JJP. I feel like I totally get my money's worth. It's a beautiful machine. Not to mention they're built like tanks. So to me, this is definitely a home use kind of manufacturer company.
Mm-hmm. This is the first one in a long time, though, where I feel that if you are on a fence as an operator, you could easily take a risk on this one. Maybe not some of the other ones.
There's your guns.
There's your guns. Yeah. Maybe I could understand on some of the other ones. I can understand on Toy Story where like, no, it's too much. I don't want to put it on location.
Yeah.
I can understand with Elton John saying, well, okay, but it's similar to what we've had before. Godfather, that's an you need immersion into the theme for environment. This is the first one you're like, you know what, actually this would fit into an arcade and not feel out of place.
Yeah. I agree with both of what you're saying, and I don't really feel like there's much to add to that as well. I think you've kind of hit the notes on that. I felt like we've wrapped this up in a nice little bow.
Now, just real quick, only because for me personally, I do want to touch up on the one thing as me being a JJP owner, the one thing that upset me. Number one, the wizard modes are not coded in. And number two, I got the impression that Insider Connect is never coming to JJP.
So they never talked about. So Scorebit was originally with them.
Right.
They're not doing anything like that anymore. I know Scorebit was taken out.
It was talked about. However, I would argue it doesn't feel so. If you're going to look at reasons why you would resist in buying, and Vic, you just brought this up.
Yeah, like that's
that you wish there were an element of Insider Connected that other people that obviously that's a Stern thing, right? And Stern has done a very good job of that, and it really has driven people to arcades, with badges. And so if on your wish list of JJP things, you're saying that you wish you had an equivalent type of achievement score thing on JJP. And I think that's a fair criticism because we're a few years into Insider Connected.
Yeah.
So it would be nice if they had something equivalent.
Yeah, to me, it's a revolutionary thing. People are like, I feel like I spoke to Kale. He's like, people are lined up waiting to get these badges. Now, it doesn't have to be badges. I don't care. Give me something like me personally, I kind of wish there was a main high score leaderboard and I'd be happy.
Yeah.
But the other thing I said, the biggest issue I have right now is that, we didn't touch up on it. At least for me, while we were playing, I actually collected Pandora. I would have went into wizard mode and my game just like the back box froze.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So it's still early code, and we knew
I know,
that.
But my big issue though is you're shipping the games out without the wizard mode in, and being a Godfather, and I hear pirates.
Right. Yeah.
My biggest thing that hurts my heart right now is like, how long? And I asked it, and all they could say is soon.
And that's always been a challenge with Jersey Jack. To be fair, it's always been a challenge.
The wizard mode's not even in Godfather right now, right?
The final. So kiss the ring.
Kiss the ring's not in there, and then I mean, obviously Toy Story is, but it's kind of
It's like hey, do it again. Yeah.
Yeah. So is Guns N' Roses final mode even in there?
I don't know, actually.
I remember there was a recent update that like took like 2 or 3, whatever how old Guns are. I don't know what it is though, but I remember seeing the update for GNR and people were like, yeah, like, and then like sales went back up for GNR.
And now, Vic, you can't let's since you are a recent Jersey Jack owner, so updating the code, is that a big deal for you, or is it very no, sorry, is it a hard thing? Is it a hard thing to do, or is it an easy thing to do?
Meaning, like in a technical aspect,
is it technically difficult?
Yeah, do you just connect to Wi-Fi and it does it for you, or you got to plug it in?
Oh, you mean like an actual update?
Yeah, like the process of updating the code. It sounds like it's easy.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about like a development standpoint. Like I have to go and code zeros and ones.
No. Like if you're like, oh, there's a new code, is it hard to put it on your machine?
No.
Okay, good. Now I will say I would also personally like to thank Jersey Jack because I am not really the best at updating my Wizard of Oz code.
I heard you ask this question. You're like, is there a dongle? I'm like,
yeah, because Wizard of Oz, it's also, this is a 12-year-old game. And so they said, yes, there is a way. And I'm not that. Okay, I have a Mac, and people said it's kind of a pain to update it with a Mac. And so thankfully, I actually talked them into it, and they were super nice about it. They actually ripped and did like the new code for me, and they got me some stuff there to help me out. And so I am going to update my Wizard of Oz to latest code.
Nice.
And there's they even said, hey, this is how you hook it up, Wi-Fi and all that kind of stuff. And they could not have been nicer about helping me out with modernizing my Ruby Red Wizard of Oz. And so I would like to give a special thanks to them and to everything they did to help me out, because that's a huge deal to me that I felt like I was kind of stuck.
We can't deny it when it comes to JJP and their like customer service.
Yes.
Nothing beats it. That when you just told me that story, I was like, I'm surprised on when they did that, but not like I'm like, whoa, like that's awesome for you. But I'm like, I feel like they would do that.
This is Jason Allen, who's one of the software guys with Keith over there. He was super nice. I'd like to personally thank him for everything. And yes, he even sent me an email. Okay, this is how you do it, and this is what's going on. So if you guys, I have an old Jersey Jack that you're interested in bringing up to the, to modern now, go ahead and reach out, and they'll be able to help you out. So that's super nice.
Well, cool. Yeah, like I said, I think we're kind of. It's almost midnight your time, Vic. Like you're.
I'm here all day. Don't worry. I'm perfectly fine. Trust me, I got hours.
Okay, so one thing I do want to do, I do want to give us a special thanks out to Jersey Jack for inviting us out.
Yes.
hosting us, for Ken reaching out, inviting us. That was very nice. They were quite accommodating. We'd like to thank everybody at Jersey Jack who was there.
Yep.
Tom Capera, all the team that was there. Brett Abbas was there. And it was just super nice that they took this seriously, as we are trying to put the best pinball machine that they know how to make out there, and inviting us into their home, showing us the process. And even like small things like the banshees. There's 6 different, we didn't even bring this up, there's 6 different banshees, and so depending
Yeah.
on what, it's a random thing, like the banshee chooses you, so you get 6 different colored banshees that could possibly come. So I thought that was a cool touch.
Yeah.
But we just like to really appreciate everything they did to make this possible. This is the best way for me to get exposed to a new game, so we can talk about it. So it was
Yep.
very kind of them to do that. And so I, again, just like to thank them. Again, they did not push us for any sort of editorial control over what we say. They were confident in their product to let it speak for itself.
Yep. I think if you want to get your hands on this game, I know obviously there's that Rocky Mountain Pinball Show, but
Yep.
Expo is where it's going to be at.
Yep.
And if you've never been to Expo, get on it, man, because
It's
or
fun. It's
gal.
40th year.
Yeah.
It's 40th year this year. And there's going to be some really cool stuff there.
Well,
So
JJP always has an excellent booth
Yep.
too, and they usually have almost all their games there. Just it's worth your time to get to Chicago. We're less than a month away. One secret, I know a lot of people say like it's a pain in the butt if you're not staying at the hotel.
It's
And I
not
get
that bad.
It's not that bad, but
at the embassy,
but one of the
you
secrets,
can drive over. It's fine.
yeah, one of the secrets is the hotel actually has a shuttle. So just call up the shuttle and they'll bring you over. No
Yeah.
cost to you. Just tip the driver.
Yeah.
That's all you gotta do. So other than that, like I said, I think you guys did fantastic. And it's funny because it's like, oh, we missed this and missed that. And like you guys were there for
There's a lot.
hours
Yeah.
though. Yeah. So
Okay, Vic, push your show.
Push
your show. Promote yourself.
I don't.
Treat yourself.
where can people find you?
Oh, you can find me on YouTube, Vic_VP, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I got a whole Linktree link going on. I'm just very grateful for you guys to invite me. It was very great to meet everybody on Friday at Jersey Jack. Again, big thank you to Jersey Jack and Ken Cromwell for inviting me. I'm shocked that I was like invited, and apparently Ken Cromwell watches a couple of my videos. So I'm like, all right, awesome. I was very. I said I was like I'm resisting trying to fanboy out and take selfies with Joel and Colin But yes, I'm just grateful for you guys inviting me. We had a lot of fun. Yeah, that's all. I'm not gonna just explain myself. But yes, thank you guys so much.
You're welcome, man.
All right,
it was awesome.
Thank you guys.
If you want to get a hold of us, we are loserkidpinballpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, all the places, Twitches, YouTube. If you're not on here, why are you not on there? Please subscribe. We're so close to hitting 500. I know it's a really small number on YouTube, but
and Josh is Hollywood pretty. So
I know it's nowhere near. It's nowhere near our other numbers for like subscribers on like Apple and all that stuff. But I'm not even going to go into that.
It's actually fun because you get to see us actually interact, and you see our collections, or at least part of it in the background.
And there's some unique content on there. Like I know a lot of people were talking about Pinball Olympics. You can go on our YouTube and see the insane room that Scott Denisi built. They put his TNA in, and it's just like sensory overload when you step inside this room.
Yeah.
Obviously, I didn't do a content creator last episode, and I feel bad about that. But I'm going to make this one pretty easy. Check out Vic VP and check out his YouTube. It's great stuff. Yeah. He's the content creator of this of our episode, so go check out his stuff.
It's got an awesome New York accent. So.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
silverballswag.com/loserkid. If you're not buying our stuff, I don't know what else to tell you. Like we've got a bunch of people that bought the hockey jerseys.
I had the Vans shoes.
Yes.
I had the hockey jersey and Vans shoes. I wore the Vans shoes all weekend. They're really comfortable. I was surprised. They're really comfortable.
People are gearing up for Expo. We've got a handful of jerseys that went out.
Yep.
Other thing too, really quick about the hats, because I've had a couple questions about the hats. Yes, we are doing the hats. The pre-list is, I have it top pinned on Facebook. The way it works is you fill out a Google sheet and it comes to me and I'm holding on to all those Google Sheets right now. And I will contact you once we shut down that form, which is at the end of this month. You only got like 2 weeks left. If you really want that hat,
Okay,
you don't have
so
to go
the
to
end of
Expo.
September, just in case you're
Yes.
listening in the future.
So you don't have to be like, I will ship it to you and we can make that arrangement if you're not going to be at Expo, but save yourself some shipping. If you're going to Expo, I can bring it to you. That's one of the main reasons I do a hat push this year, is because I'm like, I'm going to be in Chicago. A lot of other people are going to be in Chicago. It's just easy to be like, here, boom, save yourself like $8 or $10, whatever the shipping is nowadays. It's kind of out of control.
And really,
But-
we're not making anything on these. It really is just
Yeah.
a fun thing for us to get hats out. So
Yep. So there's all that. Did I miss anything, Scott?
no, it's just check us out. Josh does a really good job with our social media, all the typical locations, and we appreciate everybody listening, spending time with us. And if you see us at Expo, please come up and say hi and take a selfie with us. We'd love to do it.
Definitely. Vic, give us our last word.
Oh man, you put me on the spot. Oh man. I'm excited for Expo. I'm very grateful and happy I met you guys. Thank you again for inviting me. Flip on, my guys and gals. Flip on.